Okay, Homelander. This, like, obviously I couldn't progress very far in my breakdowns about the boys in general without talking about this central pillar. And I've been circling this for a little while because I know there's been a lot of takes on Homelander, and after a while they even start to be kind of generic to me. So I wanted to try to offer some insight about this character and a different take that I know can be expanded on, and other people can kind of look at it and still tear it down and still build it back up. But this is going to be my entry because he's a crucial pillar to understanding this world. And while I think a lot of people see him as this version of Superman, and that's understandable, but what he is less a version of Kal-El, and he's more of what happens when you build a god, but you raise him like a product, which is what we saw at Vought. And this is a difference that really, really matters. Now, any analogies or proximity I would make to Superman is I would say this: Clark Kent was loved before he became useful to the world. This is very, very important. Homelander was useful before he became loved. And in that language there, we find a whole lot of stuff that's really going on. One person grows up believing that they belong someplace already. The other's growing up believing that he has to perform to get survival and acceptance. And everything that flows comes from this very distinctive fracture right here. So Homelander is not born into any group of people. He doesn't have a tribe. He doesn't have a lineage. He has no shared history with anybody. He doesn't have good memories. All his memories are very flawed. He wasn't raised by a mother. He was not anchored by a father. Instead, this guy was raised literally in a laboratory. He was a place where observation replaces any type of affection, and machines replace actual care. There was no memory, no mirroring, no warmth, no safe touch. And because identity is formed partially through reflection, through being seen and named by others, his self never develops naturally. It doesn't grow, it's more assembled. And what forms instead is a role, a function, a prototype designed to meet the expectations rather than actually discover and explore who he is by falling down, by making mistakes, by getting back up through support. So in mythic terms, he is a manufactured deity that has no tribe and has no temple. So he becomes his own temple, and anyone who threatens that image becomes a sacrifice to that. So the first thing we see about him is his curse. We talked about everyone's, kind of damage. We talked about Butcher and his father. We talked about Huey and Robin. We talked about MM and his grandfather. Homelander's emotional language, it's not anger. It's actually not even close. It's actually shame. And this is why it's important, because shame is not the same as guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. I even know it's wrong. Shame says, there's something wrong with me. That's big. That's huge right there. So in the lab, even his basic bodily autonomy functions were ridiculed and punished. So he didn't have privacy, not even for like normal stuff, right? Right? Desire was dangerous and vulnerability became a straight liability. So when a child learns that most human impulses are something that be mocked or exposed, they internalize this brutal truth that people don't comfort you, they use you. Why those scientists even did that, I don't understand. Clearly not one of them was any type of psychologist, and Vought didn't have the forethought to bring in a psychologist. So this type of shame that he gets, and we see him talk about it when he goes back to visit the place where he was tortured, it didn't fade away. It metastasized and it got stronger. So later when Homelander kills, it isn't always about dominance or strategy. In that case, it was about purge. It was an easy way to erase any witnesses, to destroy mirrors that reflected something that he didn't want to see himself. He didn't even want those things to exist anymore. He didn't just kill those people, he erased any evidence of his hardships that he had endured, any of his shame. And he has this mask. We've seen it, like the smiling god mask. Homelander isn't even a name. It's not even a name. Homelander doesn't even mean anything. Not in the way that Superman does. Superman is kind of a name of reverence. Wonder Woman in the same vein. Captain America carries all this honor along with it. Homelander doesn't have that prestige, and everything about it is marketing. It's a costume. It's a brand wrapped with like gaudy patriotism and very rehearsed warmth. So he performs kindness in the way that a hostage reads command notes. Everything is said correctly, but something terrible is happening in the circumstances around him. And that's why he can't have a genuine smile and always feels weird and creepy, because it's not real joy. It's actually compliance. So we kind of position him mythically as a sun god, but he's a god who has to shine constantly or risk just annihilation. But the shining itself is forced. This is not a guy who performs divinity, right? This is a guy who's performing really hard acts. Now, the hunger that he has, I don't know if he fully gets it. In fact, I'm sure he doesn't, right? He's starving for love. And I don't say that in some soft like way, right? I'm not talking about sex. I'm not even talking about praise. I'm talking about a touch that comes without any conditions. So when you're touch starved, intimacy itself can become both addictive and very terrifying. And the only one that gives you care also comes with control. Then love and dominance start to fuse together in the same impulse. So this is why his relationship with Madeline Stillwell is not just weird, it's kind of inevitable. She offers a control version of intimacy, right? Affection on a leash, but that's the only kind his nervous system really understands. And she takes it a lot that she's controlling this incredibly powerful man with these very simple techniques. But she does it very well, like at an extremely high level. All props to you, Madeline, right? That was your magic working right there. But the moment closeness becomes real, it kind of triggers a panic in him. So he tightens his grip. He turns affection into ownership. And that's what he did when he got the guy the doppelganger who would imitate Madeline so he could have that same intimacy. He had a lot more control about it. And this kind of like is crucial to his form of caring captivity, right? He wants to be held, but he only knows how to like hold somebody hostage. That's kind of the real thing. And then we get to the father figure. And this is an expanded wound because we see several rejections. His rejection doesn't register as disappointment. It's an erasure. The father figure is supposed to provide three things: boundaries, validation, and direction. He gets none of that stuff. He gets judgment, withholding, and this implication that he's not enough. In fact, it was said to him. We see it in the doctor when he confronts the doctor who had actually, headed all the experiments on him. Flat out rejection. He flat out tells him, "You're a disappointment. You're the worst thing I ever did." And then follow that up with his meeting with Soldier Boy, who was his biological father. Not knowing how much of an a-hole Soldier Boy is, he bears his heart to this guy who is just brutality wrapped up in a suit. That's who Soldier Boy is. This is the most uncaring thing in the entire universe. And he rejects you in an even more profound way. So for someone already this delicate, fragile, these two people that he did hold up as father figures ultimately serve him the biggest disses of all time. Like, I don't even care what you do. I don't care how you feel about it. I know this is emotionally a wreck for you right now, but soak it up, boy, because that's what I got for you. And both of them served up that disrespect, man, like it was joy and a treat to them. So this is where we start to look at what his coping mechanisms start to be. Now, one of his redeeming qualities, obviously, is Ryan. And I can't talk about his psychology without introducing Ryan, because Ryan, it kind of remains his one like actual so the one component I can't leave out is talking about Ryan, because Ryan actually indirectly became his one shot at humanity. And you've seen him kind of struggle with adapting Ryan into his life. He's trying to force Ryan down a path that makes him more like himself, even though he can't really define it and he doesn't really like himself. Like, he's not proud of his lineage. To be like, I come from Soldier Boy and now it's me and now it's you. That's not a pretty up and down lane. So he's trying to control Ryan. I still believe that Ryan's going to be his one chance at any kind of redemption, but also any type of defeat. Any way of securing him is probably going to have to come through Ryan. And only that father-son relationship is something that can potentially heal some of these deep, deep wounds. Having said all that, we see how he performs. His survival is through his own rituals. And he relies on these really bad habits, these control narratives, intimidation, surveillance, public dominance, this reassurance of him that he's still feared. He needs to see that. So he has these purity rituals of loyalty. He punishes disloyalty or even out of line loyalty severely. He erases anybody who sees the actual him, because containment of that image feels like death. So crowds applause because he loves being need. It's proof that his mask is working. Now, he has these mirroring rituals. It forces others to affirm or pretend like he is. We see that with Maeve. He needed Maeve as, this very high bar character, right? Morally, physically, she's supposed to represent. Like, she's kind of the corruption of Diana Themyscira in this world, who above all things is said to operate on this absolutely impugnable moral structure. That's the foundation of Diana, and that's actually what's most important about her, is that her moral compass is always geared correctly because she was created through these divine mechanisms. That's the real strength of Diana, but I'll talk about her in a whole separate piece. But that's what Maeve represents in this scenario, which is why he wants her or needs her to be more like him, because that validates who he really is. So Homelander, and I'm going to go deeper into some other components of his relationships, including Ryan, Butcher, Maeve, Huey, some other, Stormfront. But overall, I wanted to say he's not necessarily a story about evil. He is a warning. He's a cautionary tale because he's a product of art. He is. They created a god as a product, but completely mismanaged the process. How a company that can understand the ability to duplicate and to enhance humans can't insert something simple like human psychology in what they're creating is absolutely beyond me. So his power does run far beyond a normal man, and we absolutely see that in him. And we'll see how this all manifests when you've got Ryan and this new crew that's coming at him. But Homelander is really a well-crafted character with an intense arc, and we'll see how it plays out for the rest of us. If you have more to add, please do so in the comment section. But as always, I ask you hit that like and subscribe.